All right, today we're going to unpack a really fascinating and, frankly, controversial document. It's from back in 2010, and it's not some declassified government file. Nope. It's actually a student's academic paper that lays out an incredibly detailed blueprint for a secret interrogation program.
This is one of the biggest questions in modern intelligence. When all the standard methods fail, what's next? Well, this paper proposed a radical and, for a lot of people, a deeply unsettling answer to that very question.
So let's be super clear about something right from the start. What we're looking at here is a student's academic paper. This was never a real-world government program. But what makes it so valuable to examine is the strategic thinking behind it and the arguments it makes, because they really do reflect a certain mindset that was out there in a post-9/11 world.
So, what was the problem that this whole theoretical operation was designed to solve? Why did the author feel that such a radical, brand new approach was even necessary in the first place?
Okay, so the paper's core argument kicks off with this hypothetical scenario. A terror plot gets stopped, but then the intelligence trail just goes cold. The problem, as the author sees it, is that the captured operatives are sophisticated. They know U.S. laws, they know their rights, and thanks to their own training manuals, they've studied American interrogation methods. In the paper's view, this makes standard questioning pretty much useless. And by quoting Machiavelli right up front, the author immediately frames this whole proposal not as some minor tweak, but as this dangerous, difficult, yet necessary new way of doing things. It's basically signaling a major challenge to all the conventional rules. Now, to actually implement this new order, the operation would need a very specific, hidden infrastructure. The paper proposes 2 secret black sites, and they've even got code names, Zebra and Unicorn. And they're built entirely on secrecy and isolation. The proposal specifically called for reopening 2 covert underground facilities in U.S. territories, Puerto Rico and Guam. And the key here was to place them totally outside the normal legal framework, far away from any potential public scrutiny. The proposed system wasn't just one site. It was set up like a 2-tiered pipeline. First, detainees would go to Facility Unicorn over in Guam for initial screening and categorization. Think of it like an intelligence triage. Then, from there, only the most high-value subjects would get transferred to the more secure Facility Zebra in Puerto Rico. And now we get to the most controversial part of this whole proposal, the interrogation playbook. This is where the paper really gets into the nitty-gritty, detailing the specific methods that would be used inside these black sites. This one quote from the paper, man, it gets right to the heart of the philosophy here. It's not just about getting information. The strategy being proposed is all about psychological dominance, fighting fear with, as the author puts it, more terror. So the paper actually games out these different scenarios for 3 hypothetical detainees, each with their own tailored approach. For the Pakistani intelligence officer, the plan is all psychological manipulation. For the IED maker, it calls for immediate enhanced techniques. That's a term often associated with things like stress positions and sleep deprivation. And probably most disturbingly, for a 15-year-old, the proposal relies on isolation and sensory manipulation. And here's a key element. These techniques are all connected. The paper explicitly recommends using the sounds of one detainee's harsh interrogation as a psychological weapon against another one. The goal is to make the intelligence officer imagine what could happen to him and hopefully compel him to cooperate just through the sheer terror of what he's hearing. For the 15-year-old subject, the paper outlines this pretty chilling 3-step strategy. First, environmental control. You put him in isolation, mess with his water access, make the temperatures fluctuate, all to create stress and dependency. Second, deception. Plant an undercover asset in a cell. And third, misinformation. Basically, psychological warfare designed to make him feel totally abandoned and betrayed by his own side. Now, recognizing just how controversial all these methods are, the paper concludes with a fictional tribunal. It's this simulated hearing where the program's director is basically forced to publicly justify all of these actions. So, in this fictional hearing, a commission member just comes right out and asks the central ethical question. It's that classic dilemma. When you're fighting monsters, do you risk becoming one yourself? The fictional director starts his defense by claiming, hey, we're in full compliance with all the official rules. He tries to frame any different treatment as being based on the legal classification of the detainee, suggesting everything is being done by the book. But the commission member pushes back, and pushes back hard. They start using very specific terms like fear up, fear down, stress positions, and sleep deprivation, moving the conversation away from general principles and into direct accusations. And the director's response? It's a classic deflection. He refuses to confirm or deny any specific methods by hiding behind operational secrecy and national security. It's a total stonewall. The commission member brings it all back to the ultimate moral argument. I mean, is this effective? Maybe, but at what cost? What does it do to a nation's character and its own legal standards? And this is the final justification offered up in the paper. The director argues that public opinion, international law, even these ethical debates, they're all secondary. For him, the only thing that matters is the singular responsibility to protect his country, using any means necessary. So it's really important to remember that Operation Seek and Learn was never real. It's a thought experiment from a student. But it's a detailed and, for many, a pretty chilling one. And it's significant because it gives us this stark window into a radical ends justify the means mindset that has absolutely been part of the real-world debate on counterterrorism for decades. And that leaves us with this final, really provocative question. This academic paper explored one extreme answer, but that underlying dilemma is something that policymakers, intelligence agencies, and all of us as citizens continue to grapple with today. Where do you draw that line?